1, and just like that, we are now started. I am here. It's Caleb Jackson Podcast. We are here, We are here with
Burp Piggy.
Burp Piggy. Yeah,
Yes.
I was about to say, I didn't know what to call you this time. Yes.
I don't know if I want to reveal my identity.
Okay, so Burp Piggy we're going to go with.
Yeah.
I'm
we'll
with
talk
that
Burp
all the
Piggy.
way. Burp Piggy.
Or
yes.
Babe. Babe is my stage name. If
Yes.
that makes sense.
Virtual
But
Babe.
yes, virtual
Virtual
babe is
Babe?
part of it.
Okay,
yeah.
yes. Okay, cool. Virtual Babe, a.k.a. Burp Piggy, a.k.a.
Bubble Babe.
Bubble Babe.
The Burp Queen.
She's a lot of things.
I have so many skills. Most of them include burping.
Go check out her TikTok or any.
My TikTok is Burpy Piggy.
Mhm.
My Instagram is Burp Piggy. You can find me everywhere else at Burp Piggy. YouTube's Burp Piggy. And I also have OnlyFans, which is Burp Piggy. I'm a safe for work content creator who burps, blows bubblegum, blows up balloons, and I'm an advocate for sexual and emotional health.
For adults, but no adult content.
Yes, it's safe for work. It's kind of adult content because it's on an adult platform.
That's why I said for adults, but no adult content.
Yeah,
if that makes
it's just
any sense.
entertainment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people are not willing to engage with certain conversations on certain platforms, if that makes sense. So I do think the space that they have to communicate with me gives me a different relationship with my community a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really supportive community around me, though. It's surprising.
Good.
Yeah. I feel so blessed by my bubble buddies. Yes, I know. Please don't sue me.
No. Is there any trademark?
There isn't. There
Okay.
isn't. No.
Okay,
They
cool.
can't come from me, but hey.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, I'm not big enough for them to take down anyway. So we're good. We're good. We ain't there yet. So, but yeah, no, we were just like going before we actually hopped on the podcast. We were going actually formulating all the topics and everything. More of just like the pre-podcast, I like to say.
Yes, got to get those brainstorms rolling. And
Well, a lot of I like to say sometimes like sometimes the best like podcasts, the stuff that was like, oh man, I just got a podcast. It just happens off camera. You know what I mean?
it does happen off camera sometimes because you get in front of the camera and you start to sweat a little bit.
That's why I like rolling first. You know, I like getting like the juices going and at least like so you get like comfortability with each other.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So I think that we should start talking about
Yeah, I was like, what's the first? Because we had it all circled together.
to like relationships.
Yes, you want to start there?
And, yeah, I think let's
Okay.
kind of go over unhealthy relationships and attachment.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, I have experienced domestic violence before, and the attachment to that situation, I could not leave. And I think you were talking about that right before we started rolling because we were like, we're starting to get into it and getting passionate. And the issue is that getting hung up on someone when they are hurting you, it stops your growth. So being able to step into the full you and your full self often needs to be done alone by yourself. And then whenever you've done that healing, I think you can better step into communion with other people. And it's not just romantic relationships, because a lot of us have sexual relationships with like minimal romance, minimal platonic, because of dating apps and things like that. And I think that no matter what kind of relationship it is, because some relationships ascend those labels, like the relationship with your mother. Yeah, she's family, but she's not platonic. She's not anything. She's my mother, and I have love for her like a mother. And understanding your relationships with people on that more interpersonal level is really effective. I took an interpersonal communication class.
Same.
Very nice. I can tell. You're very considerate about the questions that you ask.
I like to see the gears turning in people's heads. I like to pick people's brains. That's why I like doing the podcast. Is because then one of my biggest themes is just overall perspective, and everybody has their own personal perspective. That was actually something I talked about with someone at work the other day. A guy, he's a regular. He's from Ivory Coast, and so we were talking about just beliefs and what everything. He told me, because I was thinking, I was like, one question I always had was, is there a universal truth? Is there? And I asked him. I was like, I told him that was my question. Not that I think there is or anything like that, but it's my question. So I'm just kind of like I told you earlier. I'm kind of at that point just in personal life where moral code and personal walk of life is kind of up in the air. I'm really just not redeveloping, but reground. Yes.
You pulled up your anchor, got to a different place, and now you're kind of putting it down because it's a nice area to go fishing in.
Mm-hmm. I do like to go fishing, actually. I went fishing today.
Fishing is so delicious. Like, fish is so good.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't eat seafood, I'm just like, oh, man, I don't understand.
No, it's delicious.
It's so good for your brain, too.
Omega-3.
That fatty acids.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Creatine as well.
I have not used creatine yet, but
oh no, so like tuna has like a good natural amount.
Natural creatine.
Natural creatine.
I mean, I've heard some decent low key. I want some poppin' muscles, so I might try it one day soon. But you got to be hydrated.
I need that too.
Yeah.
So I play football, so I was there, but regrounding.
So you had mentioned earlier that whenever you're having like a relationship issue.
Mm-hmm.
If someone comes to you and asks, like, hey, you look like you get all the women.
Mm-hmm.
I have this issue that I'm struggling with, and I can't find a way to connect. And it's interesting because a lot of the time they externalize it, and they think, like, the women are the ones who don't like me. But you had sat down and asked him about what his feelings were, and that's the key. Visiting how you are actually feeling, talking to yourself and assessing what your goals in life are, the things that you need from your relationship, right? Going into interpersonal communication. There's different reasons to have relationships with people, right? You have to be able to ask for help from people for instrumental things sometimes. So if you have a driver of a car, I mean, that's a relationship right there. It's a small relationship. You don't need a lot of emotions involved, but it's still like understanding where you are at in regards to that person and the perspective of the situation. And with relationship struggles, do you feel like people sit down and ask each other questions in their relationships about how the other people are feeling?
It just in any friendships, just any relationship.
I think friendships is a really good point for us to get into with this because most of us have more interpersonal communication with our friends because relationships come and go that are romantic. So yeah, with your friends, do you when you think that they're not doing good, do you sit down and ask them how they're doing, or do they ever do that to you?
I try to. I try to ask people how they're doing, or just how's their day. Even if just passing, if I'm just having a conversation with somebody just randomly, it's just how you doing? How's your life treating you?
How often when people ask you that are you real with them? If you're not doing good.
I wouldn't say all the way real. The usual I would say the usual response if I'm just in just a
funk.
I'm just chilling, because there's nothing. I mean, if I would say that's another thing, especially like you said. What'd you say earlier? Sedentary lifestyle. I get into that mode of going to work, home, and not really being able to interact with people outside of that, or really not even getting out to interact with people outside of that sometimes because I get caught up in work, home.
So you're socially sedentary. You're socially slow.
That and also brainstorming of what I want to do with myself. You know what I mean? So really just really been a growth period, but I mean it's it feels like a funk, but you go down to come up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so,
things oscillate. The world has to go up and down. So going from friendships, let's think about how we have relationships with ourselves, because that is an even more common thing than friendships, because we're always with ourselves. And for me personally, sometimes I get caught up and I forget to check in with myself and just see how I'm doing. And because I am someone who has some trauma history, I can find myself activated. We use that word instead of the word that has to do with this.
Oh.
Because
I was thinking,
it's that word, but we're going to say activated because there's nothing necessarily negative about
I'm activated.
about my fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And learning to start to
Because
feel
when
that
you
I'm
say,
scared
because if you say like triggered, then people think that you're ready to.
to explode at people. And I don't need
Okay.
to spray it all out. Nah. I just need to,
You had a certain emotion that was activated.
yeah, and usually breathing for a moment, right? I think breathing is so underrated. And with my bubblegum things and my balloon stuff, I find myself meditating whenever I'm taking these deep breaths. And it's it's been a really good way for me to deal with my anxiety because chewing makes you not as hungry. So sometimes hunger can make you anxious, but also remembering to breathe. And so many people forget to breathe and they get caught up and they get sent into these, like, this feed of information or whatnot. And then at a point, it's kind of like how you talked about, like, fifth grade to like middle school. It's like, what am I doing with myself? And I found myself in that situation a couple months ago, and I did a little bit of an Instagram detox because I'm like finding myself losing so much time to scrolling. Instead, I asked myself what I really needed to be doing, which was like schoolwork. How do I prioritize the things that I need in my relationship with myself? So, with yourself, how do you check in?
Lately, I've been doing thinking about thinking. Really back to the roots of why I have predetermined or pre-existing thoughts. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, why do I think that way? And then boom, because of this. Well, then why do I think that way? Boom, and then eventually I get to like the root of the core. Also, writing stuff down helps a lot too.
Yes, externalizing and like actually with a pen. It
Like
does
actually
help a
like
lot.
writing, not just like typing it into your notes or something like that. Actually putting like pen to paper is the best way to do it, I would say. So everybody's different, you know. So I can't speak for everybody.
Sometimes doing it in the mirror is
Oh,
good for
talking
me.
yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, hyping myself up a little bit. I think it's whenever I get that eye contact and I really see my sparkle, my eyes, that is like, you can do this. I feel like bringing myself up works well in the mirror, and like bringing myself down a little bit works more on paper.
I mean, it's the same. People would say like, "Oh, that's crazy," you know, like, but I mean, like, it's the same as like looking at water, you know. I mean, everything's if the water can mirror you, and then like you can look at your phone screen while it's dark, and it's a mirror too, you know.
Black Mirror.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh. Dun, 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 dun.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's just me personally. I should meditate. I don't meditate more as good. Okay, I don't meditate as much as I should. We'll say that.
I am forced to because of my job, which I'm so grateful, because I got away from it for a long time, and it helps me like dismantle my emotions. I used to do the breathing count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anytime I got mad when I was little, and it would work. And it was just because I start getting anxious and I stop breathing and I just start like tensing up, and like my breathing gets more shallow, and it's an anxiety response. But there's two types of this anxiety response, because your brain can think that you're going to be beaten and get into this response of it more shuts down. It constricts the vessels so that it doesn't lose blood, which makes the amount of oxygen that gets to your brain be less because the vessels are small. If you think that this is a challenge that you can overcome, the stress response and the way that those neuroepinephrine things affect your body, it actually opens your blood vessels so that your brain can get more oxygen. And that also goes into eating proper food and things like that, because when you're in calorie deficit, you start to get anxious, and, you know, ketosis is not a fun place to be in all the time. All the time. I feel like I have a good relationship with myself right now, and I have had to reassess my friendships with people just a little bit, because do the people in my life want to be around me for me? What are they saying versus what are their behaviors? That's something I learned in psychology class. Because what scientists do is they observe behaviors, whether it's primates and they're studying anthropology, or if they're studying kids or whatever. They're looking at what people are actually doing or what they can measure that they're actually doing. Sometimes it's self-reports, which are not very reliable. Someone says like, oh, I felt this way, or oh, the car was red. But when you're observing people's behaviors, you're seeing what they're doing. Are they constantly asking you for things and not giving back, even though they're saying they're going to give it? It's really about their actions. And I had to get it through my head that even though my friend, one in particular, says she loves me and things like that, and she's trying to do good things for herself, her behaviors and her actions were not lining up with that, were kind of pushing me away. And ultimately I'm like, I need to go back to that relationship with myself, because why do I have this attachment to her? And I feel like she's a little bit like my mom. So once again, kind of like the predisposition that I have. Why are my patterns this way? And I was like, I've been friends with her for a long time. She is an alcoholic. My mother's an alcoholic. And I chose to stop talking to her because we kind of got in a fight. Not really. It was more about her relationship situation. She has not reached out to me. Is she my friend if she does not want to reach out to me? When I have reached out to her so many times over the course of many years, 3 or 4 years being friends, and her behaviors are reinforcing what someone who's not a friend looks like to me. So I'm trying to put myself out there to talk to old people who are good people in my life, like you, Caleb, and revisiting like those kind of shallow relationships to see what people's behaviors are in those shallow relationships, to see like what I actually like, because I was getting drawn to things that I knew from before, and it falling back into my old patterns. I don't know if you're like that.
Yes. Yeah, basically. I've had to do the same thing, the exact same thing. And I think the biggest thing that overall going from like being able to go back in time and see those moments and stuff like that is the actual awareness, that you have retrospectively versus rather in the moment, and getting out of that shame or guilt of not doing what you know now because you weren't that then. And letting the past be the past and being able to move forward.
Yes, it's about forgiving yourself. I think a lot of the times I feel like people say you should forgive people, but it's more like forgive the situation so that you can go on.
That's what I've got to. The people are just people, I mean, just like chess, the chessboard I have and stuff. When I've really gotten back into it like the past couple of years, and I realized, I was like, as I'm moving the pieces, I was like, on a philosophical note, I'm just like, all the pieces have a certain way they move, and it's just programmed that way.
And I guess that's kind of an interesting perspective too, to think about it from a hypothetical, metaphorical way. Like the queen has a role. The queen is powerful. The king is very important, and he is the ruler. They have different roles, and they fulfill different roles to each other, if that makes sense. So it is kind of a society in that way. And I think we start rushing into like looking at all these other pawns and like, oh, that's a cute little knight over there. I hope he comes my way. When we don't realize that we don't know what our skills are and what our pieces are. I am a more of a knight type myself. I want to protect people, right? If you ask me what chess piece I would have been a long time ago, I'd probably say like a pawn or a bishop. I don't know. But do we know ourselves as children, or are we the things that we've been programmed to become?
Well, and that's the thing, is that you're not just a piece on the board,
Yes.
though. You're the one working the scenes for the whole team, for all the pieces.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you have to do with, essentially with chess, you have to do with what you do what you can with what you have against an opponent too. And you have to remember that you only have one move at a time. And the cool thing about chess, you have to let the other opponent make their move before you make your move. And that's why it's better to, like, having to think 3, 4, 5 moves ahead,
I'm not good at that. I can think like maybe 2 ahead.
There was a little podcast I saw. It was talking about how women generally aren't good at chess and stuff like that. I was like, what? But no, there's definitely some female chess prodigies out there who are absolutely
Women are
insane.
not invited to play chess as much, I think.
And see, I realized that one time we had a little kickback with some people I met, and I just got invited to there, and I was with some people. We just hanging around, and also like getting my social clock back up and everything. I was just getting used to hanging around just new people I've never met before. I'm like, okay, it's kind of exciting again, right?
I used to be really anxious in these type of situations, and like,
And not even that I was anxious in those type situations. I think COVID, the pandemic, also moving out and also having my own space. I realized how territorial I am.
Oh.
So it was like, wow, I really need to be more inviting when I have my own. Something I have to work on personally. But that comes to the discernment of certain people who you hang around. You know what I mean?
I have gotten more practice meeting new people,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not like to used to meet new people, and now I think meeting new people is kind of a superhero skill because you can make the right connection if you play it right.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it just depends on if you need a connection with that person anyway, but it's worth talking to strangers.
I think I kind of, with the pandemic and life going the way it does, I kind of lost that for a little bit, or just kind of stopped using it as much because I was caught up with my own BS, and so in that same little kickback we had, I was just sitting back playing on my phone. I was playing chess, right? And someone just happened to look over. They were like, "Oh, you're playing chess?" I'm like, "Yeah." You're like, "Oh, bro, I play chess." And I'm like, "Oh, for real?" And then someone heard chess over here, and they're like, "Oh, really? You're playing chess?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we have a chessboard in the back." I'm like, "Oh." And so then another person walks in, and the girl over here is like, "Oh, I play chess too. I used to play chess with my dad." And so it was like, everybody here play chess, and so we just bust out the chessboard and had like a mini chess tournament right then.
That's a great way to connect with people too, over common things that you share.
But it was just like, what? Really? Like, everybody plays chess like that? And it's like, I didn't think that, but then someone just happened to look at my phone and be like, "Oh, bro, you playing chess?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm just playing a game." Like,
I'm surprised more people can play it than I thought, because like in elementary school, nobody could play chess.
most people play checkers.
Yeah.
And checkers is too
it's easy.
It's too simplistic because I suck at it.
Yeah, I can't do the triple skips. I'm not.
Exactly.
I can't plan like that because it's not complicated enough to plan.
It's because you move all the ones at a single
The little discs. Also,
Yeah.
another little anecdote about the chessboard is if you were a pawn in chess, you can move across the board, work really hard, make it to the other side. You have to have people on your side protecting you, of course.
Yes.
You can turn into a different piece. And I think
Bingo.
that metaphor of like going through metamorphosis is lost on a lot of people. A lot of people get stuck and they don't want to change, and like change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's inspiration has to come from within, motivation has to come from within, but I do think the world you surround yourself with can help you feel certain ways. And if you are not working towards the other side of the board, how are you going to level up? If you don't have people on your side protecting you, how are you going to make it across the board? And looking at our relationships and looking at like how people support us, how we support other people, how we protect other people, it's about the interconnectedness, and it's not really about the sole person, even though we have the greatest relationship with ourselves, and we're going to be the only ones who have our own back all the time. Community, being a human, involves being social. Let's get into romantic relationships, because we did the kind of less messy ones that most people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm an expert at being a friend," and of course I know myself real well, but I think you and I can both agree in our day and age the dynamic between men and women is off.
I would say social media, TikTok, a lot of that. I would say the dynamic is definitely skewed. I wouldn't say necessarily off, but there's almost like the habitus. There's something, the general perspective is there is something off. I can't quite pinpoint what it is personally.
Well,
I've
we
been
got
trying to
the
pinpoint-
old world of sexism, and now we have this new world of sexism. And if we go to the old world, it's like women did not have suffrage and things like that. And in this new world,
Move the mic a little close to your mouth.
in this new world,
There you go.
I feel like in this new world where women do have rights and things like that, those past beliefs are trying to persist, where men have to provide for women and women should there's an uprising of women who are like, I want to stay home. Give me a sugar daddy, make me your stay-at-home trophy wife. And it's interesting. It's called the trad wife movement, the traditional wife movement. It's interesting because it's like this weird feminist wave, but if you know anything about feminism was created by people who were not very good people and who were they wanted like abortion for black women and things like that. And you have to know the history, because when we look at our history of men having rights, owning property, women not being able to do things, it's the pendulum swinging to the other side, probably, right? Where women are now coming into the workforce. But on the opposite side of that, it's kind of fabricated. So some women are like, I don't want to work. I'm happy taking care of children, which is great. But then the other women are going into the workforce. There's a bunch of companies that are fashion companies releasing clothes that are like office wear, and they're really trying to push office wear being popular. And some people on the internet have been like, are they just trying to get women to go to the office again? And low key, I get what they're saying, because then these women are getting jobs and working, and they still want men to pay for their dinner and things like that, which I understand. You took time getting ready, you paid for your makeup, right? There are expenses involved with going on a date. But I do think that when you are an independent woman taking care of yourself, to be asking for so much from somebody and to not be willing to give it back, that's where that offness is kind of
reciprocation.
Yeah.
I think on both ends too as well. You know, especially one thing, like especially since I have sisters, right? And so I would say that if you are seeing a guy, it's like one thing that that she knows is that make sure he'll do something for you. You know, and not just monetarily. You know what I'm saying? But make sure it's if you're messing. That goes for guys, girl, anybody messing with anybody. The relationship has to be reciprocal. You know, but it also comes with knowing what you want out of the relationship too, as well, and being able to communicate that.
Yeah, and a little thing that gets glossed over sometimes is self-disclosure. And whenever you're talking about reciprocating, I do think at the beginning of the relationship, when you're exchanging pieces of information with each other about your life, about your history, about past relationships, what are they sharing with you? What do you choose to share back? And at the beginning, normally it's like smaller things that aren't too deep, but I've had some relationships in the past where they fed me information that was kind of like not really their beliefs, not really self-disclosing, and I found myself telling so much to these people and giving so much of my information to these people that whenever I was securely in a relationship with this person, what does he do? He starts talking behind my back to my sister. He starts talking about my sister's stuff to me, things she's never told me before. And I'm like, this man is over here using my information to manipulate my sister. So be aware of how much information you're sharing with people too, especially online. Because I think a lot of people are now making relationships online, and catfishing and things like that are a risk. But I think
There's a whole ass show made about catfishing.
You don't know who they are, and it's not about what they look like.
Did they bring back catfishing?
I don't think they did. Okay. I think it's still off the air. Okay. It was good though.
I was about to say they could double down on this one and make bread. This one, catfishing nowadays, 2024 catfishing. That would be
AI catfish.
Oh my God, that would be something serious.
And you're not even talking to a person; you're just talking to an AI chat person too. Oh my gosh,
that's scary.
It's gonna be happening soon, and like, you have her Cash App that you just sent her money to, but she does not exist.
That is scary.
It's inevitable, but it's that self-disclosure thing and reciprocity of, are they giving back to you? And it's not always items. It's not always money. This conversation is not about money, but money comes up a lot as an issue because of our economy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that goes like to actual relationships. That's just a preference thing too. You know, everybody has their own preferences with what they had, what they want in their relationships. And like I said, being able to express what you need out of a relationship. You know, with everybody. You know, that's one thing I would say that a lot of when it comes to the dating world, or at least like when it comes to dating, is one of those skewed things because if it's either you're dating someone to further relationship
Mm.
or you're seeing someone just intimately, you know what I mean, or sexually, we'll say
Yeah.
that. And so that's where it gets kind of skewed because it's like everybody's like, well, the future, you know what I mean, like long-term relationships and like you said, having kids and where the birth rate is nowadays, and how does even having these like short mini relationships affect us in those small parts of our life, and how they'll affect us in long-term relationships too, you know what I mean.
Yes. I read a book recently that was really good, and it is called Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again. I can't remember the name of the title, but it was kind of going over at the beginning like court cases, and um, it was kind of dealing with like that issue of it went from no means no to yes means yes, but consent is sometimes implied, and it's even implied in the healthcare industry sometimes, right? But how is consent implied is an important issue, because it's also like how, as a woman, how can you communicate? How can I communicate what I want to someone without seeming like I am being demanding, or without seeming like I am a hoe? You know, there's really no in between. A lot of the time.
There's a song that talks about that too, cause like it was called "Girls Need Love" by Summer Walker.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
something
have
like
to
that.
listen to that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of the things like I told people, I'm like, or told friends before, I was like, you know, if you just shoot your shot at a guy, you're probably gonna go in, you know. Like honestly, like, you know, like what do you have to lose, you know?
And also, I think, what do you have to lose? Sometimes we think relationships are really gonna decimate us, when sometimes shorter relationships are moments of learning, and also we can find love through other types of relationships.
Mm.
I had a mentor who I loved so much, and she brought so much joy into my life, and she helped me become self-employed last year and stay self-employed, and that was really cool because I learned so much about e-commerce and taking photos and making listings, and I felt so cared for, like a mom. And I don't know if you've ever kind of had like a mom friend at work or something like that,
A
but
little bit.
sometimes we have these feelings that are more complicated than words can say, and I don't think words have to be spoken
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for us to care about people and to move on. And it's not always going to be the end of everything to move on. I remember getting out of my first relationship, and that's why I stayed in my second relationship, because I was like, you know, so terrified of just being alone, I think, and like it ending, abandonment issues. Everyone has their reasons that they stay where they are, but we need things from people, and that's why I left my relationship. I was not getting what I needed. I didn't know how to say what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
What I needed, to be honest, was a job. Every time I was like, had an interview lined up and stuff, my boyfriend would say like, don't go, we're gonna move, blah blah blah. Just gaslighting. His behaviors were, I should have had a job based on his behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a slippery slope if you don't know what to look for, and retroactively I can see it, but in the moment I couldn't see it. And I do think it comes with age a little bit, and with the frontal lobe developing all the way whenever you hit 25.
Mm-hmm.
But on social media, I think there's a lot of like feeding of information, and like manly masculine, like how do you be a manly man and put a girl in her place, or like how to get girls to like you, and like there's all these things that it's like there's no formula to this.
Yes, there has to be some kind of you, you have to have a righteous philosophy to whatever you're doing, you know, especially when it comes to like you just have to be set within yourself, really. You know, it's just really just good with yourself as you are, and what will come to you, kind of thing. It's and not in the way that people think is like, oh, it's not gonna just magically show up at your doorstep. It's almost like when you're firing on all cylinders, and I can say this much. It's almost like punching in a code almost, and you just know the code, you know. And if you didn't know the code, it's kind of it's a self thing of not going back to that negative depth of having self-deprecation and being like, why I just ain't shit. I just can't do it. I just can't, you know what I'm saying? And having all those negative feelings about yourself and reinforcing those feelings about yourself, because then you'll just project that right back out to the world, you know? And so you'll feed that to yourself, and then, like you just said, like, be careful what you eat. You know, be careful what you feed yourself.
Yes, and junk media is just as bad as junk food. There is people who are professionally trained to help you with your relationships. If you can afford it, I have benefited greatly from therapy, from a trauma-trained therapist, and I think considering some kind of mediator between you and your partner would be much better than taking advice from influencers on the internet. Yes.
100%.
People also come to me for advice sometimes, and
I've gotten out of giving relationship advice. I was like, you know, like sometimes I can give advice on how to deal with situations, you know, but as far as a personal relationship, I was like, I don't know her like you know. Yeah, I don't know him like
There's
you know
no
him.
Formula.
You know,
this is not the crusty, creepy, Krabby Patty. Okay,
no, exactly.
We don't got no plankton.
No,
coming in here like y'all are plankton. We don't. Why are you asking me for the secret recipe?
It's you.
Exactly.
The secret recipe
I
is you.
am the pretty patty. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm the crusty crab.
She is the crusty crab.
I make that money. So I don't know how to tell people, because often it seems like what they're asking is like, how can I be like you? Which is a weird question. And I think that's a sentiment that man told you. You look like you get girls.
Yes.
How can I be like that?
Exactly. And me being like, dog, I'm just out here, man. Like I do what I can. You know, I wouldn't say I'm like the most successful, but I mean I've had my fair share of success. So I mean, but I also have like knowledge on just how things work, you know, and just how the best way to generally do something. And so like I told him, I was just like, man, I mean, and the dude was like, for just for context and everything, I'm getting my inspection sticker done, and homie, we're in there just chilling, and he looks at me, he's like, hey man, can I ask you a question? I'm like, sure bro. And he's like, man, you look, you get girls, bro. Like, do you know where to find girls? I'm like, I'm just kind of like, they're everywhere, dog. Like, go grocery store, go outside, go outside,
Go outside,
go walk down the sidewalk, go touch go outside of the park. Like, there you will find a girl. Just about there's two girls for every one of us. They're quite literally everywhere.
How do you find them?
That's like,
I have lost the girls.
And I'm like, so
they're not missing.
You know,
something is not connecting you to women, and if you are trying to connect with women, maybe you should ask women questions about themselves. Well, if you're trying to connect with anyone, asking people questions about themselves is an effective way. I can give practical advice in this way because I have read so many books. These pieces of advice come from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, I believe.
That's a good one.
It's a good one, man. It says, like, smile at people, ask them about themselves, and let them talk about themselves.
Well, even then, like, smiling at people, even walking down the street, has gotten so weird.
Yeah.
You know, like,
like
looking at people is like, because you, like, sometimes I'm just like looking at someone and they're like looking at me like, or even then people are looking at me like this, but then when I look at them and they just, I'm like,
I told this lady hello because I thought I recognized her. And she had this little cart backpack, so she and starts rolling it. And I'm like, hi. And I get closer to her. I have lost my glasses this week, y'all. I did not know that woman. But she goes, hi. back as I'm walking by. It's a little awkward hi, but
Mm.
it's not the end of the world to smile at people and to be friendly.
Mm.
And people who are older, people who are about middle age or older, I have found do really well with stranger interactions.
Mm.
While people who are my age, like in class or like younger, especially the high school COVID generation,
Mm.
they're quite awkward and impersonable. They don't talk.
Mm.
They don't ask you what your name is. They just come to class, sit down, and then they leave class. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, even when I was in class, like actually in class pre-COVID,
Mm-hmm.
there was still kind of some kind of connection there between the person next to you. You know what I mean? You still at least knew their name. At least like where they're from.
Nah, not anymore. In my
Really?
art classes, I had great conversations because it's a studio class, but in the lectures now, because they have most things hybrid, so they only do like one class a week instead of two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like half is online, half is in class.
And that's when I got out of school, was when all school went online.
Yes, things
And
are a lot different.
projects. I have to have group projects with people who are in different cities.
Oh.
And I don't. And we just have to communicate over the phone,
See, now the way it's set up is like all like that, because a lot of
Mhm.
online classes I just communicate via email. So, I mean, there's less personal contact in higher education.
Mm-hmm.
I do find that I've made better relationships with my professors because of this, though, because the kids aren't really social with each other, but they're also not very social with the professors, and they are starved for attention right now.
Really?
They are starved for engagement by the students. Yeah, nobody asks questions in class. How do you make someone like you? Ask them a question. You want your teacher to like you? Engage. Ask a critical question about the lecture that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not hard, and they will appreciate that you're paying attention. It is not hard to impress your professors, and then you get on their good side, and they will help you out.
Well, because we have like Rate My Professor and stuff like that. You know
Yes,
what I mean?
that too.
And
Yes.
like stuff like that. I don't know. Like I can't recall a time where I've ever had like a god awful professor.
I had one.
Really? Ooh.
I was in chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
not this last semester, which I dropped it this last semester because I was also still failing. But the semester before, granted, I had gotten on new mental health medications. So I was kind of struggling to communicate with this woman, but her name, I'm going to trash talk. Her name is Heffley, Ina Heffley. And
It's on Rate My Professor. So I mean,
it's on, y'all.
Mm.
If you want to do me a favor.
If she has a rating,
It is a bad rating, bro. So I was trying to communicate with her that like I'm not feeling very well and things like that. I forgot to file for accommodations, which is my bad. I wasn't doing well. I don't always file for disability accommodations, but I was getting on a different medicine and it was really not well, so I probably should have. I can't exactly remember what I was expressing to her, but in one class, she was like, she just really wasn't like engaging with my emotions at all. I don't know if she was Russian. She had kind of a thick accent like that, and she seemed very cold and hard. And I was like, whatever, I'll just try really hard to get through it. I go to the second lab, and a girl grabs me in class because I'm trying to use it. She grabs me to make me not use the balance. I get manhandled in class by a girl, and my teacher thinks I'm trying to start a fight when I am trying to use the lab equipment that I have paid money to use. I asked, there was only 2 on this side and there's 3 on this side of the room. I was cramping. I'm not about to walk all the way to this side of the room and back, and there's 2 girls hogging one of the scales. And so the whole room is on this half of the class in this long line because these 2 girls are at this scale. And there's only one more scale over here. So I told them, I asked them, are you using that? They said yes. So I waited until they weren't using it. I went to use it, and she grabs my hand, pulls it away from the scale. I'm like, I start crying. My teacher thinks I'm trying to start a fight. I don't know. They thought I was a problem child. So I continue going in class because I'm trying. I'm trying very hard. She's not telling us that homeworks are open, what date things are due. She's not communicating those things very well. She only had like so much vocabulary Her accent was not a problem. She thinks that it's her accent, that students hate her for her accent. She has a limited vocabulary, and it's difficult to understand chemistry if you have like 40 words that you use consistently. So I was struggling because she was saying like the same 10 words over and over, and then all of this chemistry lingo in the middle. So it was hard to understand. And I went to her one day after class and tried to confide in her again. And she told me, which this isn't personal information, but because she shared it with me, I'm sharing it with the internet. She told me that her husband and son are dead and that I should be happy. Blinn, you need to figure your BS out, because you're taking people's money for a woman like that to complain about how her husband and son are dead. So, she was an awful professor. I did take chemistry again the next semester. I loved my professor. I was still failing. Blinn, you need to get your BS together. If everybody in the class is failing, okay.
We'll leave that at that.
That's my message to the world. Bad teachers.
The worst professor we had. That's just...
I was just like, this is unnecessary. I'm leaving this class. It's too much stress.
I can see why she's on a personal level. I can see why she's such a militant woman. You know what I'm saying? As a person. But can we be understanding? You know?
I do not need to know her emotions. And she was trying to open up to me at that point.
You just need your grade.
I need to be put in a different class where I'm not being grabbed by someone and my teacher's saying she doesn't have to share a scale with you. So I'm waiting patiently to use the scale, and then a girl comes up and grabs me. Yeah. And then I'm told I'm trying to start a fight. So yeah, no.
Jesus. It's like for someone to say, you know what, my husband and son are dead. You should just be happy.
It's like, I really don't know what's going on
it's
here.
Like,
I have to leave. Is this person giving back to me?
See, like, my problem, well, not a problem, but like me, I've been like, well, how does that make you feel? Like, I'd be like, do you want to talk? Like, I'll be like, are you okay? Like,
I thought about it, but she didn't care about how I felt. So I just was like, at this point, I'm walking out of here and I'm dropping this class, because
that's fair.
I think I got a refund for it because I dropped it early enough. I did not drop chemistry early enough this semester to get a refund, though.
That's just so...
It was crazy. So I feel like sometimes I'm a target for these type of people. And I had behavioral problems according to other people, but I think I'm a pretty personable person, and I'm just real with what's going on, and I'm not going to deal with people saying they do things when I don't see them doing it, like professors who don't profess, you know, who don't want me to learn. I get away from them. Or my other professor, she's having back issues. So I can understand. She has a lot of pain that she's going through that affects her, and I'm not going to take that personally. I am going to take the other situation a little personally, because I don't know how I could have socialized differently to make that not happen.
So you more or less like professors who are more engaged with you actually engaging the information rather than just do this.
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
She got mad at me for asking if carbon can conduct electricity in class. She was like, yeah, graphite can. And I'm like, what's graphite made out of? She's like, carbon? It's like, oh yeah, no, this is like the second day of class. You can't just expect me to know that graphite is made out of carbon when you're not telling us to learn simple compounds. You're just telling us to look at other things. So I don't know. She feels safe there being that way. And because Blinn is how it is right now, I am just not going to continue school. I'm getting my associate's degree. Woo woo.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll move on for now. But another one of my professors was saying that jobs are actually not wanting bachelor degrees as much anymore. We are artists, so this might pertain just to the art field. They prefer people who have degrees and certificates and things like that, rather than entire bachelorette degrees.
By
Bachelorette
degree, so like an art degree.
Yes.
An arts degree, or like a
full 4 years.
Liberal arts, or
so they would prefer a certificate. So if you got like
a diesel mechanic, or like a
that's
trade,
more of a trade. So trades are popular because you can go into the workforce immediately, but it's more like for specialists in the field, if you're like a broadcaster, they might want someone who has a broadcasting certificate and let them get in a little bit easier than someone who has a bachelor's. Just because companies are struggling to hire qualified people because they have so much debt to pay off people who have bachelor degrees.
What would be a broadcast certificate?
It'd probably be like, so broadcasting is like live streaming, right?
Yeah.
It looks like you have live streaming OBS stuff set up on your computer.
Yes.
So this would be more of broadcasting video, while what I do is more of digital video or video editing, where I take videos and different clips and put them together. But with broadcasting, you might be splicing this to a different channel, moving things over, transitioning, putting the person who's waiting live on the right side of the screen, things like that, which is more of this streaming technicality stuff. But if you get a video degree, a film degree, you're not going to be broadcasting as much. So why do you want to hire someone who's like a full videographer director who wants a higher pay because they have $40,000 of debt to pay off that's continuing to accrue debt and they can't find a job? The job market is slowly changing, and I think college has to be the one to kind of shift as well, because it's just too expensive, and all the good teachers are gone.
Because a lot of, I guess, like just the money. Is it the money in it, or do you think it's the? What do you think is pushing away a lot of good professors?
The benefits have stayed the same for the last 20 to 30 years, while the pay has barely increased. So you get the same amount of vacation days and stuff as when like Blinn started. They don't want to change that, even though like we can work remotely and we can do half days or other things. There's so much ways to supplement. We don't even have to have teachers now, really. We need teachers grading, but if we record all of the classes beforehand, these teachers are just doing like double the workload, the ones who are full-time, so that they can get paid extra for the extra classes. But it's the same content that they've posted across, the same videos, the same dates for the last 3 semesters that they've taught. So all they're doing is grading, right? I understand the thought of, oh, well, if they're not in class teaching anymore, they don't need races. I don't think that's the case. But I do think the engagement and the system, the way these things are set up, it's just not functional right now. Because it's wanting to stay in this old style, and it's frustrating. So Blinn had a president change about 2 years ago during COVID, and they did an overhaul of the website. I remember like they changed the eCampus stuff a little bit, and it got weird.
Very.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped.
Yeah. No, it was really bad, and it's because part of it's because a lot of teachers have left, so the professors that we're getting just aren't the best professors anymore. But there's so many technical issues. My professors cannot post things to where we can see them sometimes because the website's just not operating, and they don't want to pay more money for Canvas because it's more money. So they renewed with eCampus, and eCampus has had more issues this semester than the Blinn. Blinn was having issues on their website, but now eCampus is like giving everybody a hard time. But they're also on salary, and so like the teachers who are just grading, that's a lot of work for them to go through to answer emails, to grade things, to do the discussion posts and read everything. Whenever you are doing all of that and going into class and teaching live classes and driving, the workload starts to be way too much, and you're still getting paid the same. So all these teachers are switching to online, and we're struggling because we don't know how to reach these teachers. They don't see our faces. They don't know our names. Like, we're numbers.
There's no actual, like you said about interpersonal communication. There's no interpersonalness to it.
It's just mass communication. That being said, I had a mass communication teacher who was brand new, and you would think a communication teacher would be able to read my emails and understand I cannot find 2 quizzes. Yeah. But I had to appeal. I had to spend 2 months, and they just think I'm a crazy kid who just chose not to take 2 quizzes, even though I read the chapters. When really, your teachers also need more interpersonal connection with their trainers. Like, the reason it's dysfunctional is because no one wants to really do their job. They want the system to do the job for them now. And they think that things are becoming automated anyways. I just don't know where all the other teachers are going.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that.
Like, we're the good teachers.
Yeah, where did they go?
Where all the good teachers at?
Like, are y'all just retiring or like
Probably
working at a bank now? Like,
I remember one of the better professors I had when I was one of the campuses was he was late 70s, early 80s, and he was one of the best professors because he had a way of teaching that almost made sure, like, ensured that you understood the information. And even like his lectures would be his name was Dale Carnegie, actually.
oh wow.
Yeah. He I mean, when I tell you he was like a dinosaur, this dude was he was up there. But I mean, like, old school. I mean, like, as soon as his like class starts at 9, he closes that door at 9. As you walk in at 9:01, you're considered late, and you're considered for the day. And he'll give you 3 chances. The third chance, he said he'll count you absent for the day, and his door's locked.
Oh.
He said, because my class starts promptly at 9 a.m., not 9:01.
Well, I like that attitude.
Yeah, I was like, and that was when I was like, oh, okay.
I'm going to be early for this class from now on.
I had practice before that class, so
Oh.
that let out at 8:45.
Yeah, you're going to be rushing there.
Oh no, I learned how to take a shower. Run from the field to the dorm, shower, and also in a dorm where you have also another 30-40 guys coming with you to do the same thing, and you have 4 showers on your floor.
You're fast though.
You got to be quick with this shit. Like, I had to do that running, like, hair still wet to class because I'm like, I can't be absent for this class because I know he's gonna Mr. Carnegie. There are times where he's literally like has his old man walk into the door, and I'm literally like beat him like into the door. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Jackson, glad you joined us on time."
I'm trying. I'm running.
And he wouldn't even get like any like mad about it or anything. He'd be like, "Oh, look, you're here, cool." Like, but then like he wouldn't like. It was one of those subtle ways where it's like kids nowadays. I won't say that. I won't generalize like that. But if I see that happen nowadays, I feel like he would have so much backlash.
Entitled students.
You know what I'm saying?
The amount of the academic entitlement has definitely increased since COVID, but that's because they were given so many easy A's over COVID.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends told me that if you just didn't sign in for the semester, you were considered to not have Wi-Fi, and they can't fail you if you don't have Wi-Fi. So what they did is they just took the grade from the semester before and put it as your grade.
Mm-hmm.
So they just chose not to sign in even though they had Wi-Fi, because that means that they didn't have to do the schoolwork.
I would say same way. I had a government professor who's kind of the same way. Just the way he would teach and lecture was just kind of like, it's hard to get information from.
That's the other side. There's a lot of people teaching who are not teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They are
wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
You know,
the communication
on a personal level, but I mean, he would throw his personal beliefs in there, especially because it's economics course. Because when sometimes you can throw personal beliefs in there, but sometimes when it's just not necessary.
It seems a little political.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I thought it was economics, man. You know, like just purely economics. But no, I remember I didn't necessarily see eye to eye with him. But I was like, he's still my professor. I'm gonna do my best, right? I remember coming in there to make up a exam that I had missed and I was in a different class. So he was like, come in when the next class is coming, you take your exam with them. And so I remember one of the kids in the class, when he walked in, he said, "F this fat prick." I was like, I know I ain't gonna see eye to eye with him, but like, what did he do to you, bruh? Like,
you just angry.
That's why I was like, I didn't want to say the full thing because it sounds
like
very
you have
hard.
a problem with fat people, don't you?
That too. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I was like, I don't necessarily agree with the dude all the time either, but dog, like,
chill.
You know what I'm saying?
You know that person grades your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If they hear you,
because of course he wasn't in the classroom yet, but it was still one of those things of like, dang,
you
like,
probably shouldn't talk smack like that in the classroom with you can communicate how you feel without the smack talk because it's just risky that your teacher could come in.
This was before I got the communications class. This was the this was the basics. This is economics. This is economics, government, and mathematics. Yeah.
Why did you have to take economics? Did you just choose it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a business major before
Oh.
until I got to calculus, and
I got a C in calculus. I did somehow pass.
I did too, barely by the skin of my teeth.
But it was like I don't want any more math in my life.
I did. That's why I changed major. I was like, the professor expected me to see calculus before, not knowing I'd only taken pre-cal before then. But I remember because I'm not the very good when it came to the SATs and the ACTs. For my SAT, that was just long as shit, and I was just like, bro, I hate this standardized test being here with all these kids. And then the ACT was horrible because we had just lost our first game of the season in rounds 5 of the playoffs in high school.
Sorry.
And so back then it was one of those things that was like, I'm getting off of that, but also I just got home at 3 a.m. in the morning from our first loss, and I got to take my ACT at 9. You know? And I'm like, I woke up, I was not in the mood to do anything. You know? I was like, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to do much, but I'm forced to go take an ACT, so I didn't do good on that either. So by the time I got to actually getting into courses and stuff like that, and they were like, oh, so you don't have to take your basic math courses. You have to take this exam or take the test to make sure you don't have to take like the basic levels of math. And I scored way higher. They're like, oh, you can go all the way up to like you don't even need any basic math at all. I was like, yeah, I just suck at tests sometimes.
It had been 5 years for me since taking pre-calc to doing calc because I took it in junior year because I was advanced, and then they put me, I think, in trig. So it had been 5 whole years since I'd looked at pre-cal. It did not make sense.
Oh, he said derivative. I was like, what?
I recognize a logarithm, but do I know what a logarithm does?
I remember one of the girls in my class who was helping me, and she was like, so you take the derivative? I was like, hold, stop. And she was like, what? I'm like, what's a derivative? And she's like, I was like, I've never seen this before. I think he expects me to have seen it before because this is business calculus, and I just skipped all the way up.
Oh.
And so I think he's being like, oh, he's probably seen calculus already. I'm like, no. And then you start throwing like actual money calculations to it. I'm like, oh my.
With the IRA and the interests and the things and I do remember slightly doing that.
Back to that great professor. His name was Mr. Chin. He was hard to understand. I mean, really good guy, good professor. We played a lot of pool together. But just the only thing is just he was very hard to understand sometimes. And it was just like, and a lot of times he would just be really writing stuff on the board, you know. Like I said, good professor if you actually like going and like, there's a lot of professors I realized who are better tutors than there are. Like they're much better one-on-one engaged than they are having to command a whole course.
That's a good point too, actually. I don't think I've ever really seen it that way, but some people are good at mentoring and telling you where you are going wrong, while some people are really good at projecting a message that makes sense and is cohesive and has language to it that gets you to the conclusion correctly. Yeah. I think my chemistry teacher was really good one-on-one, the one that I liked, but maybe she was having a hard time talking to the whole class.
See, like, that's the thing. Being commanding a whole room, but also having to actually, like, teach a whole room, like, teach a course with it, too. It's a skill that a lot of people don't possess, especially like, coming up nowadays, the way kids are nowadays, you know? That's why the shortage of teachers is so high, shortage of professors and everything. There's a lot of entitlement overall.
It's not a rewarding place, and it goes back to that relationship, I think. The relationship that these teachers have with their schools. Has the relationship changed? It's been the same for a long time. There's been no developments. There is no giving more from these schools, which is why a lot of people are choosing to leave. I had an art teacher, the most amazing teacher in my entire life, and she retired 2 years before. She left 2 years before retirement because you know what they were doing? they knew that she was about to retire, and they were giving her more responsibilities. You know how there's 8 class periods in a day, or maybe 7? She had 9 classes. How can you have 9 classes?
For like an average high school?
For the average high school, it's like 8
Mhm.
periods.
Mhm.
She has to fit 9 classes into 8 periods.
And she was
Because she's an art teacher. So she's having to teach one kid in her class advanced this thing, and then turn around in the same class period, giving each of them like 20 minutes each to teach this to this other kid. And it was just like, why are they doing this to her? She's already the head of the department. She's the
I'm guessing she's
person for the art club.
at retirement age.
She is at retirement age, but
Mhm.
I think you have to be with them for 16 years, and she was with them for like 14. And she left right before COVID. So like really it was really an amazing thing for her, honestly, to have left when she chose to leave. But she was giving so much, and like she wasn't giving for the school. She was giving for the students.
Mhm.
And she really cared about us, and she wanted us to be able to do amazing things. We painted murals in the Scott and White Hospital, the NICU unit, and we painted a mural in A&M Consolidated Fine Arts hallway. And yeah, it just, she put us out there. She got us out there, and it's just so sad that she wasn't getting rewarded the way that she deserved to be rewarded.
Mhm.
She has changed my life.
Nice. With that, like with what you said with that, I think for her, she knew, and one thing we say for the podcast too, especially for relationships, is knowing what you can do. You know, really knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and your limitations.
Yeah, where the
You know?
burnout point is.
You can't be everything. You have to be you have to be everything of who you are to yourself, but you can't be everything for everybody else. Or you can't be everything for someone else. You know?
And every now and then you do need someone's help as well. And that is a barrier of like when you are getting to the point of giving up, how like some people struggle to admit that they need help, let alone ask that they need help. Another topic I kind of wanted to bring up was censorship.
Yes.
So we live in a digital age where the platforms that we're posting on are who is responsible for what we're posting. And so we see a lot of changes in the culture surrounding like TikTok banning certain words. People just get around it by saying the word different or
what like even like a lot of podcasts cuz like even on YouTube right now it's SA.
Yes.
Or what's another one? Grape. Certain like buzzwords, even like you said earlier, activated. What's another one? What's the dumbest one? Unaliving, I would say.
Oh yes, the super slide.
You know, super slide.
They say I'm gonna super slide myself.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, upon seeing it,
super slide to heaven.
Yes. Upon seeing it, you're like, yay! It's just a harmless little kids app. These kids are having conversations with other kids about super sliding.
I don't like
committing super slide.
No.
It's so sad that we can't just have conversations with each other anymore. And I feel like maybe that's a little bit why some people are kind of shut down in this environment.
Because people are scared to be who they are because they don't want to offend people. You know,
Yes.
they don't want to be necessarily ostracized because they have a certain. Even if someone says something the wrong way, I remember. I had talked with someone or with coworkers at the time, and I asked them. I was like, "What is your?" I think I said something, and the way they took it, and they were like, "Okay, well, don't say that." I'm like, "Whoa, like I didn't even mean it like that." And it's like I don't even want to have the conversation because like I'm kind of being judged based off. I didn't mean it that way. You took it that way, and then put that on me. You know what I'm saying?
And it goes back to like the perspectives that people are coming from, and you can clearly communicate, and someone will still not receive.
Sometimes because they don't want to, or because they can't. Almost
a lot of people can't.
You know.
Yeah, I think censorship's really interesting because I feel like on Instagram, a lot of women who show their boobs are censored, but it's not just women who show their boobs. It's people who are SWs, and also like people of color.
You said SWs. I'm still getting used to the
yes, to the lingo.
Yes.
And I think it's really interesting because, like in my world of bodily functions, I am not doing something that is explicit, and I face a lot of shadow banning for my bodily functions. And part of my struggle there and my what I was doing wrong, I was tagging certain things that was flagging the algorithm to be more explicit content. But a lot of it is like what you're triggering in other people. And we have this thing built into us of like, women aren't supposed to burp, or women don't burp, women don't fart. They don't poop, guys, just so you know. And it's really strange because sometimes my bodily functions are considered profanity. They are considered profanity. Why can't I burp out in public? Let alone on a social media platform, right? I should be able to burp in public. I say, excuse me afterwards, I'm not trying to be disgusting, but for so much of my life I have suppressed and like made my burps really quiet. And that's a different kind of control, a shut down response that I have learned in my life. But I have a lot of experience with fighting censorship, and I like with censoring books and things. There's an argument for like the things that you're exposing yourself to. As we talked about earlier, I mentioned mirror neurons to Caleb in an earlier conversation before. Some people say like these things shouldn't be available because it'll create behaviors in people. But whenever we are censoring information, we are really just still controlling the information anyways, and trying to push a certain kind of narrative that says like, for example, there's a book called Lolita. It has a 12-year-old girl in it. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but her stepdad gets her in his authority. Her mom dies basically, and inappropriate things happen. But the shutdown response around like that was almost a banned book for a long time. I think it was banned for a while. The shutdown response around that makes people so ashamed. Instead of like encouraging people to reach out for help and to revisit the confusing things in their life that make them want to pick up this book. I wanted to pick up that book in high school because I thought it was like an important thing to know. That being said, it was just too graphic of a book for me, and I understand now why some people think it should not be in libraries where teenagers can read it. But at the same time, I was choosing to read it out of a place of being a teenage girl, like that girl in the book, and seeing that strangeness. It made me realize these things progress into different levels of society. So like we have a lot of young girls on TV screens, and we do have some protections for them, but then like Millie Bobby Brown, she's very young. I do not necessarily watch anything that she's in just because I don't care that much, but her
Stranger Things was a good
that's
show.
the only one that I might one day, but like I've heard some controversial things about her, and I don't know if they're true because like right, people are haters, and at the same time her managers are like, she's like this young girl on Stranger Things. Her managers paint her to look like a 30-year-old lady with the way she's dressed and things like that. And it's weird because we sell little girls as adults to media. Does that make sense? Like, and then the other way around, we also sell adults as little girls in media. And it's I don't know why we can't have people play the age that they are. And I also don't. So back to censorship. That's just a little side thing about Millie Bobby Brown, because the way she's shown as mature, And the way this girl in the book is shown is she tries to show herself as mature.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever, and what I learned from this book, right? Because for me, I did get something out of this book. I got something very powerful. I saw the way that maybe I had been projecting myself out to the world from this kind of bird's eye view of like, why do I present myself, as older, or why do I present myself as younger and things like that. And whenever I was a teenager, it's because like people want you to grow up and start working and things like that. But in a way, like, it creates who you are, and censorship creates who we are. So if we start taking away these books and these lessons, I do think that we're taking away the right to critically think about complicated situations.
Mm-hmm.
Because things are not usually simple. So I think we can admit that most of the things censored on social media are very complicated situations, whether it's like conspiracy theories and like political stuff, or whether it's people getting hurt and having sad relationships with themselves.
Mm-hmm. And other people.
Yes, or violence.
Mm-hmm.
It does create how we see the world. And so that leads me to my little weird side of it. I worked in the firearm industry, and that was a very difficult industry to work on social media with.
Mm-hmm.
The censorship levels there are extremely high. And here's the thing. No matter how many people you kick off TikTok, they're still going to be making new accounts and posting guns and stuff. I understand not having weapons on platforms. I think that kids are on. I think that's good to not be showing children videos of those things or of violence. But it extended to firearm accessories, which was like holsters and belts even. And it was kind of hard because you have to like just play the game right and keep going and keep hitting it until it gets through. The censorship is not always going to censor. And that's the weird part that I'm trying to bring up is like, it's a game. And it's a game played by people who have money, and it controls what we think. Mm-hmm. And while we might think it's in our best interest to be censored or to have censorship, I feel like we don't know the stories of the people who are being quieted down.
Mm-hmm. One person who comes into mind when it comes to censorship, probably when it comes to like actual digital creating and stuff like that, you probably might know who I'm about to talk about. Maybe.
He had to read your mind.
He had a lot of very controversial thoughts.
Oh,
topics.
Mr. Booth.
Mr. Booth.
I don't know. Elon Musk was on his podcast doing the booth.
Joe Rogan. Not Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Not Joe Rogan.
He has some controversial opinions. I will say that.
Controversial opinions. What I like about Joe Rogan though is that he always leaves the room open for him to be wrong.
Yes, and he has a good, happy attitude.
Mm.
I just don't watch his stuff because I'm like, man, these are like two Joe bros, like just chatting it out. I've watched a couple of his videos before. He's not the worst, but I think he does kind of push political things or like topics that people want him to push for.
Well, when the guy was talking about Andrew Tate.
Oh, I do know him.
Oh, really?
Well, because can
we say his name on here? I don't know.
Well, yeah, we can say it, but he has controversial things happening.
Well, I was saying because like censorship. When I saw, because like that was probably the most, just from a censorship point of view, that was probably the most mass censorship I've ever seen.
Oh. I don't know what I'm talking about. Joe, yeah, he doesn't really get censored.
Yeah, not. Well, Joe Rogan is like, people forget he's a comedian too.
Mm-hmm. He has to play that middle line of toying with.
Mm-hmm.
Ding. Now you're pissed off.
Exactly. Like when he had like the Planet of the Apes jokes and stuff like that, it's like, how are you gonna get mad at Joe Rogan about this? But then you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie.
I do love Quentin Tarantino.
You know what I'm saying?
He plays on those stereotypes.
It's like, what do you think about the fake outrage culture?
Fake outrage?
Fake outrage culture. Because even on my last podcast with my boy Troy, he talked about how we live in crash out culture. In a sense of that, like, you're almost taught to, like, if something goes wrong, crash out.
Oh,
You know.
okay. So for men, yes, men are very often taught to be frustrated, and I think
Mhm.
some people in like customer service scenarios are taught to be frustrated,
Mhm.
so that they can like get that power through and like get the situation to go in their way. I find that anger usually makes people more defensive.
Mhm.
Um, or like if they're in a defensive mood, anger is not going to be the way to get through to them.
Mhm.
So, and it's also the way that it's like fake rage, because I do think whenever I see this from people, it's not just like a little wall. It's like they are projecting angriness into the situation. And I do think like people's body language affects how they feel. So whenever you're acting like you're angry, let's do something real quick. We're going to make a face of disgust at each other, okay?
Mhm.
You feel it, right? It's not like I'm feeling disgusted. I had to look away from you cuz you don't disgust me.
Mhm.
But it's like that facial
Like the, you know.
you know, you don't get grossed out at vomit, but for me, I'd be like, "Oh my god, ugh." Your body is part of how you feel,
Mhm.
and your voice is part of how you feel, and your mind, the patterns create also how you feel, but it's like a back and forth with your body and mind. So um I've never heard of fake rage culture before in
Oh,
those terms.
like like people being outraged about certain things and certain beliefs, but then allowing those certain beliefs in
Oh,
other mediums.
I get what you're
You know
saying.
what I'm
It's
saying?
kind of like hypocrisy.
Yeah,
Okay.
like if someone were to get mad at, like Joe Rogan's had some jokes where he's gone like race jokes that people have taken very seriously and stuff like that. But it's like again,
But
like
then they laugh at Tropical Thunder. Bro, that's the only movie that's ever done that
you know what I'm
and
saying?
gotten away with it. I did not know
Well,
when I was
to
little.
be fair, to be
I
fair,
thought he was a black guy when I was
to
little.
be very fair, Robert Downey Jr. played a very good black dude. I mean, hey,
That story was written perfectly for the
you
situation.
know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, I really can't be mad at him because he did it so well that I thought he was black. So it's kind of like one of those things of like, I mean, if he does it good, can you really be mad at him? You know, I think that's the part of well, because that movie was made when I was in third or fourth grade.
I had a little brain back then.
And then people get mad about it 10 years later. Oh, Robert Downey Jr. did blackface. I'm like,
It wasn't a problem.
so, but is it not reverse when I'm not saying that like it's a big deal, but like white chicks.
Oh, yes.
Everybody loves white chicks.
People don't get mad at it at all. It's very interesting. I've
one of
had
the
that thought
most-
before.
But then like Tropic Thunder is something that a lot of people, black people, wouldn't watch and laugh at. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, what?
Double standards everywhere. You're making me think of this. I can't remember what country, but they have like this little. It's a holiday, and he's Chimney Sweeper Pete. So on this holiday, people go and paint their faces black like a chimney sweeper, and they are fighting because it's their holiday and they want to keep it. And I'm watching this little video, and this girl who's talking, her face is painted rainbow. And she's like, we don't have to paint our faces black anymore. We could make it Rainbow Pete Day, you know, things like that, instead of like Blackface Pete. Double standards are everywhere. But here's the thing. The people who are in power get to do what they want to do without retribution. And the people who are facing consequences for their actions, a lot of the time their actions are made illegal so that they can be more easily controlled, or so that their rights can be taken away from them. Because like for me, it's a right to vote, right? This is my main one. Why don't felons have the right to vote? It's a right. It's not a privilege to vote. It is a right to vote. I think that felons should have the right to vote. And they can get it back if they have enough money. And if they, over time, like, schmooze enough and become a good enough person, blah, blah, blah. But most of the time, the reason that people are felons is because they're fighting each other because they're not eating, or, you know, it's there's bigger issues going on, and people are hypocritical. I do not like hypocrites. Whenever I see people kind of exhibiting that behavior of like allowing things in this situation, but like not being okay with it at all and like getting angry in a different situation, I'm usually like, the things that they're saying is not what they're doing. And it's the observation of their behavior versus the words that are coming out of their mouth and what they're trying to get you to think that they want to do. So it's like, I don't know. I like to be financially stable, but I have been using my credit card a lot. That's not like the end of the world, right? But if I am constantly preaching to other people not to use their credit cards and things like that,
yeah, I'm using my credit card.
you'd be like, why do you keep using your credit cards? Like, I'm not mad at you or anything. And then I might get defensive. So it's, at that point, it's about people saving their face and their like reputation. And like, I'm only saying this so you think a certain way about me. My behaviors show things differently.
That's one thing you always got to watch too. And like going back to what we were talking about earlier with like thinking about different situations you've been put in, different contexts, and like I said, behavior. And again, being able to observe, take yourself out of a situation, you know, and being able to observe other people's, and how do you, because you can put whatever you want in that situation, and having that awareness to be able to put whatever, you know, if you're mad, you can counteract that. Having that overall awareness of yourself, you know what I mean?
And like, you can actually physically take yourself out of situations sometimes. I found that like when I'm frustrated with my mom, I can go to my room, and that like movement of the place helps me feel better and get out of it. Or like if my friend kind of had a little bickerment with their partner, I was like, just take my car, like go drive for a minute. I trust you. You'll come back. Sometimes getting out of the space allows you to see it from that bird's eye view because you're not in the feelings. So you can let the feelings pass, because the feelings they are pieces of you, and they are part of your like biological mechanism that tells you how you're feeling. But to look at the situation and observe the situation is very difficult to do with the feelings going on. So I do find that whenever I move out of the situation, I can kind of look back and be like, you know, maybe I wasn't being like super grateful to my mom or something like that. And like, I can be like, even though something made me upset here, I'm going to go talk to her in a minute, whenever we both had like, technically the amount of time is 20 whole minutes if you're like having an argument or something, for the body to go back down to rest state. So I'll give it like 20 minutes. Whenever I had a boyfriend, I would wait a while before I talked to him again, because otherwise you're going to work yourself back up. And like, feelings move us. They can move us towards people very powerfully. They can move us away from people very powerfully. They can be constructive or destructive depending on what you do with them, but they always pass. They're not permanent. And maybe they'll come back again, but usually they pass. So letting them pass helps me kind of sit down. And sometimes I have to write them down to get them out if I can't move my space, to kind of get myself into a new energy. Or exercising. I love exercising for my feelings, because I don't have feelings anymore.
I'm getting back to that because, well, also, you got to make sure your body's okay. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to make sure your body's
You're biological.
You're functioning okay.
You need salt. You need water. You need certain nutrients.
Every now and then some pepper.
Yes. Oh, yes. Piperine. That stuff, magical. Piperine, or pepper with turmeric for inflammation. Oh. Yeah. If you ever have like a good workout, you can make yourself like a little turmeric latte or something.
Really?
And just like not feel as much pain. Self-medication. Do it with things from the earth.
Please do. Yes.
It's good for you.
What should we title this podcast? That's my main question for you for the whole entire podcast.
We have been sharing pieces of wisdom wisdom pig. You could
Wisdom
be like
pig?
talking with the wisdom pig, talking with the wisdom piggy. A wise pig. A wise pig once told me.
Relationships, mainly with yourself.
I think relationships is most of what we talked about, and
But mainly with yourself, and then how that applies to others.
because like yourself is what makes the relationship. Relationship. Oh man, I'm struggling.
Oh no, you're good. You've been going for a little minute now, so you're good.
Relationship philosophy.
Yes,
That's a good one.
with Piggy.
Yeah.
With Burp Piggy. Hey, I'm with it. Relationship philosophy with Burp Piggy.
Yes. There's lots of advice that I could tell you, but you're gonna find out that only you know the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ultimately, it's just it's an individual walk, especially when it comes to how you operate in this world, because you're the only person that's gonna care for yourself at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, you just gotta know who you are, know what you want, and be honest with yourself, and be able to be honest with others. That's the biggest thing I can say from this podcast.
Yep. Finding honesty sometimes can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The truth can be deceiving. I can be deceiving to myself sometimes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me, Caleb.
Of course.
This was a lot of fun. We had a great conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, probably definitely do one in the future too as well. Because
I would love to do this again.
we had some topics we didn't cover, but we can definitely.
I think it would be hilarious to talk about OnlyFans.
I thought so too. I was like,
it would be really funny.
That's definitely something we can bookmark for another podcast for sure. Especially like I said, because I was like, you're in the industry, but you don't. Like I said,
I deal with the
made for
same
adults.
customer service situation.
Yes, made for adults, but not adult content.
Yes, it's a very unique, very very unique. Because even people who are like feet people, they still very much. Because I have, like, can you post a video of feet onto YouTube? Not really.
No,
like,
no.
Yeah, I mean, you could do, like, a foot massage, but, like...
The algorithm will shut it down before anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, all the playful things that I do are not necessarily a target.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it's very unique. And
girls really got on easy mode. Y'all can just send feet pics and get money.
right now, yes. If you are a beautiful enough woman, you can tap into using your body to make money without having to actually use your body that way.
The game has changed.
Yeah.
But we're learning how to change with it. Ultimately, for the whole entire podcast, too, I wanted to say, like, I think we're in an era of change right now. Like, an era of big change from...
Well, because we passed the Industrial Revolution, and now we're in the... It's like technology and scientific revolution happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like another enlightenment.
Almost.
Mm-hmm.
With more, like, natural stuff coming back from what we were within the exponentially fast technology age.
I think, we're trying to go back to talking about ecosystems and ecology and understanding that all of the technology we have comes from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important, and like entomology is becoming very popular. Studying bugs is becoming very popular because I think there's so much that we don't know that exists in these creatures that are pharmaceutical or have other benefits that can be used as pigments. There's so many things that we don't know about the world. Do you know that neon pigment was invented like in the 60s, was it? Pretty recently. We did not have neon colors until less than 100 years ago. And acrylic paint's only 60 years old. So
that is crazy.
Yeah, find inspiration. And if I can ask you to do anything at the end of this podcast, text somebody that you care about and just say, hey, what's up? And try to connect with them and be a human for a minute, please. Get off for a moment. Just for a moment. Go text your mom.
Just like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big...
And then come back and watch more of Caleb's videos.
Please do. And we'll go watch her videos too as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you, Caleb. I had a lot of fun.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a handshaker.
No, it's all good. But till next time, be sure to leave a comment, and let us know what you think about any of the topics or any of our opinions. And like I said, until next time.
Until next time.
Peace.
Bye.